All right, day 5 of reading aloud to become articulate. I did yesterday, but I just didn't record it. You're gonna have to trust me on that. Okay. Finished the therapy parts, and now talking about philosophical meditation. Yeah, it's basically just talking about being able to go throughout your anxious thoughts and kind of sit with them. A more normal normality. If part of the reason we don't look more regularly into ourselves is our shame and fear at the unusual nature of what we may find there, then a crucial collective resource in the path to self-knowledge is a withdrawn sense of what is normal. Our picture of acceptability is very often way out of line with what is actually true and widespread. Many things that might be assumed to be uniquely odd or disconcertingly strange about us are in reality wholly ubiquitous though rarely spoken of in the reserved and cautious public sphere. In any idea of the normal currently in circulation is not an accurate map of what is customary for a human to be. We are, each one of us, far more compulsive, anxious, sexual, tender, mean, generous, playful, thoughtful, dazed, and at sea than we are encouraged to accept. The misunderstanding begins with the basic fact about our minds, that we know through immediate experience what is going on inside us, but can only know about others from what they choose to tell us, which will almost always be a very edited version of the truth. We know our somewhat shockingly reality from close up. We are left to guess about other people's from what their face tells us, which is not very much. We simply cannot trust the sides of our deep selves will have counterparts in those we meet, and so remain silent, shy, struggling to believe that the imposing, competent strangers we encounter can have any of the vulnerabilities, perversions, and idiocies we are so intimately familiar with inside our own characters. Idiocies. Ideally, the task of culture would be to compensate for the failings of our brains. It should assist us to a more correct vision of what other people are normally like, by taking us in realistic and sensitive ways into the inner lives of strangers. Novels, movies, and songs should constantly be defining and evoking states of our mind we thought we were alone in experiencing, but that belong to the typical lot of humankind. We should put down that average novel, wondering with relief how the novelist had come to know so much about us. We should begin to understand that an average stranger is always far more likely to be as we know we are, with all our quirks, fragilities, compulsions, and surprising aspects, than they are to resemble the apparently normal person their exterior implies. We need culture to take on the task because we cannot do it all by ourselves. In order to know ourselves well, we rely on the level of self-awareness, courage, and honesty circulating in society as a whole. We will be as hypocritical as the most representative voices around us, and we will, conversely, be freed by what society is prepared to countenance as acceptable. There is, at present, so much we pretend not to feel. Starting in childhood, we have instilled in us, so subtly we don't even notice, strong notions about what is and is not permissible to experience. Traditionally, boys were not allowed to acknowledge that they felt like crying, and girls weren't allowed to entertain certain kinds of ambitions. We might not have such oblivious, naive prohibitions today, but other, equally powerful ones have taken their place. We may have picked up covert but forceful indications that no decent person should be enthusiastic about making money or unable to cope at work, tempted by an affair, or still upset over a breakup. Furthermore, despite the apparently sexually liberated spirit of the times, the lion's share of our sexual impulses remains impossible to avow. There's still a great deal we are not meant to feel in order to fit in that most desirable categories, a good boy or girl. The way to The way to greater honesty follows some of the techniques evident from the rehabilitation of the people who commit crimes. We must reduce the shame and danger of confession. We need a broader, more reassuring sense of what is common. Of course, it is normal to be envious, crude, sexual, weak, and indeed childlike, grandiose, terrified, and furious. It is normal to desire random adventures even with loving, committed unions. It is normal to be hurt by small signs of rejection and to be made quickly very insecure by any evidence of neglect by a partner. It is it is normal to harbor hopes of ourselves professionally that go far beyond what we have currently been able to achieve. It is normal to envy other people many times a day, to be very upset by any kind of criticism of our work or performance, and to be sad so we rarely daydream of flight or a premature end. The journey of self-knowledge needs to begin with a better map of the terrain of normality. The importance of a breakdown. One of the greatest problems of human beings is that we're far too good at keeping going. We're experts at surrendering to the demands of the external world, living up to what is expected of us, getting on with the priorities defined by others around us. We keep showing up. Maybe you'll get it like this. We keep showing up and doing our task. We can pull off this magical feat for up to decades at a time without so much as an hour twitch or crack. Until suddenly, one day, much to everyone's surprise, including our own, we break. The rupture can take many forms. We can no longer get out of bed, we fall into silence, we develop all-consuming social anxiety, we refuse to eat, we babble incoherently, we lose command over part of our body, we are compelled to do something extremely scandalous and entirely contrary to our normal behavior. We become wholly paranoid in a given area. We refuse to play by the usual rules in our relationship. We have an affair, ramp up the fighting, or otherwise poke a very large stick in the wheels of daily life. Breakdowns are hugely inconvenient for anyone, and so unsurprisingly, there is an immediate rush to medicalize them and attempt to excise them from the scene, so that business as usual can resume. But this is to misunderstand what is going on when we break down. A breakdown is not merely a random piece of madness or a malfunction. It is a very real, albeit very inarticulate, bid for health and self-knowledge. It is an attempt by one of our part of our minds to force the other into process of growth, self-understanding, and self-development that it has hitherto refused to undertake. Oh, that's fire. If we can put it paradoxically, it is an attempt to jumpstart a process of getting well, properly well, through a stage of falling very ill. There's a quote by aloud that was saying how, the best types of people are people who've been previously broken down by life. And, every single hero's journey talks about all, the struggles they have to go to become where they are. So that's cool. It's kind of talking about our own. The danger, therefore, if we merely medicalize a breakdown and attempt to shift it away at once, is what we will miss the lesson embodied within our sickness. A breakdown isn't just a pain, though it is that too, of course. It is an extraordinary opportunity to learn. The reason we break down is that we have not, over the years, flexed very much. There were things we needed to hear inside our minds that we definitely put to one side. There were messages needed to heed, bits of emotional learning and communicating we didn't do, and now that being patient for so long, far too long, the emotional self is attempting to make itself heard in the only way it knows how. It's become entirely desperate. We should understand and even sympathize with its mute rage. What the breakdown is telling us above anything else is that it must no longer be business as usual. Things have to change, and this can be properly frightening to witness. That death might be preferable. Why can't we simply listen to the emotional need calmly and in good time, thus avoiding the melodrama of a breakdown? Because the conscious mind is inherently lazy and squeamish, and so reluctant to engage with what a breakdown eventually has to tell it with brutality. For years, it refuses to listen to a particular sadness, or is in flight from a dysfunction in a relationship, or pushes desires down very far beneath the surface. A good mental physician tries hard to listen to rather than censor the illness. They detect within its oddities a plea for more time for ourselves, for a closer relationship, for more honest, filled way of being, for acceptance for who we really are, sexually. That is why we started to drink, or to become reclusive, or to grow entirely paranoid and manically seductive. A crisis represents an appetite for growth that hasn't found another way of expressing itself. Many people, after a horrific few months or years of breakdown, will say, "I didn't know how to ever got well if I hadn't fallen ill." In the midst of a breakdown, we often wonder whether we have gone mad. We have not. We're behaving oddly, no doubt. But beneath the agitation, we are on a hidden yet logical search for health. We haven't become ill. We were ill already. Our crisis, if we can get through, is an attempt to dislodge us from a toxic status quo and constitutes an insistent call to rebuild our lives on a more authentic and sincere basis. It belongs in the most acute, panicked way to the search of knowledge. Alright, chapter 2, others. Kindness, charity of interpretation. At its most basic, charity means offering someone something they need but can't get for themselves. This is normally logically understood to mean something material. We overwhelmingly associate charity with giving money, but in its widest sense, charity stretches far beyond financial donations. Charity involves offering someone something that they may not have entirely deserved, or that is long way beyond the call of duty for us to provide: sympathy. We're often in trouble of a distinctive sort. We are not quite in a ditch. We may even have a little money, but we are in difficulties nevertheless, as much at the mercies of strangers as if we were beggars, and equally unappealing to the hard-nosed and impatient. Just like the most scabrous. Yeah, what does scabrous mean? Can you look it up, please? SCABROUS.
Rough and covered with.
Rough?
Whereas with scabs.
Oh.
Scabrous.
Just like the most scabrous of panhandles, we have lost any claim on the respect of the righteous. I don't even know what that sentence means. We have done something highly foolish or disreputable. We may have been inconsiderate or hasty. We may have lied or lost our temper. Perhaps our deficiency is one of temperance. Under the pressure of disappointment, our personalities have grown sour or boastful, or we come across as despairingly shy or cynical in our dealings with others. We need charity, but not of this usual kind. We need what we might term a charity of interpretation. That is, we require an uncommonly generous assessment of our idiocy, weakness, eccentricity, or deceit. We need onlookers who can provide some of the rationale we have grown too mute, cowed, or ashamed to proffer, even when they do not know the details. Do not know any of the details. Generous onlookers must take a stab at picturing the overall structure of what might have happened to the wretched being before them. They might guess that there will be a sorrow and regret beneath the furious rantings, or a sense of intolerable vulnerability behind the pomposity and snobbishness. They must admit that early trauma and letdown must have formed the backdrop of later transgressions. They will remember that the person before them was once a baby too. The charitable interpreter holds on also the idea that sweetness must remain beneath the surface, along with the possibility of remorse and growth. They're committed to mitigating circumstances, to all the bits and truths that they can cast a less catastrophic light on folly. In case of financial charity, the gift tends to go in one direction only, from rich to the poor. Those who give may be generous, but they tend to experience one side of the equation, remaining for all their lives to donor rather than to be the recipients. They can be reasonably sure that they won't ever be in material need, which is what can lend a somewhat unimaginative or aloof tone to the generosity. But when it comes to a gifted charitable interpretation, none of us is ever committedly beyond need. Such is our proclivity for error and a vulnerability to reversals of fortune. We are all on the verge of needing someone to come to our imaginative aid, and therefore, if for no reason, we have duty to remain constant providers of generous interpretations of the lives of others. We must be kind in a sense not only to being touched by the remote material snuffings of strangers, but also to being ready to do more than condemn and hate the sinful around us, hopeful that we, too, may be accorded to tolerable degree of sympathy in our forthcoming hour of failure and sin. Damn, 15 minutes done. School life, book is fire.